rescind your violent tweet to call to arms?
No, let him talk. The more he talks, the more stupid he sounds. Please continue.
Will you rescind your call to arms tweet in the light of the mass shooting in downtown Chicago, as stupid as you think that may be?
So I know that there's an outrage right now, I guess, about protests that have been peaceful to date, and we certainly continue to encourage that outside of judges' homes, and that's the president's position.
I want to tell you, Gorsuch, I want to tell you, Kavanaugh, you have released the whirlwind, and you will pay the price. You won't know what hit you if you go forward with these awful decisions.
Guys, I'm gonna tell you, man, I take no joy whatsoever in reporting and talking about stories like this. Although they were very, very, very predictable, that this was the natural consequence of the extremist rhetoric coming from the Democrat Party, something that I warned about time and time again. Okay? Because as I've told you guys, the woke supremacists in this country are the biggest threat domestically. I'm telling you, I'm not exaggerating about that, right? And I mean, look, it's obvious to me because these people have got away with violence, okay, for the last 2 or 3 years in the name of social justice. And the Democrat Party has turned a blind eye to it. They've said, you know what, this is fine because it advances our goals. And it's not just that they've turned a blind eye to it. They've actively encouraged violent protests and rhetoric. Okay, that's what they've done. And again, the natural consequence of that is that it's going to escalate into something that is going to be very, very, very tragic. Okay, but hey, the Democrat Party, they really don't care. Okay, they don't care because this is what their idea of democracy is, right? Their idea of democracy is threatening and trying to intimidate Supreme Court justices. And lo and behold, what happened after weeks of protests of Supreme Court justices, some protests still going on that have manifested themselves into churches. Okay, you got people stripping naked in churches. But what happened is, guys, is that late last night or early this morning, whatever you want to call it, there was an armed suspect that was arrested near Justice Kavanaugh's home, in which this suspect was carrying a knife, a gun, and pepper spray, and explicitly said that he wanted to kill or assassinate Brett Kavanaugh. And the reason why is over the upcoming Supreme Court decision that allegedly is going to overturn Roe v. Wade. So with that being said, Democrats, they could have had blood on their hands had this guy not been arrested. But again, this is the consequence of woke supremacy in this country. And that's the honest to God truth. That's the honest to God truth. So with that being said, let's read about this failed assassination attempt on Justice Brett Kavanaugh. Again, a very, very, very low point in this country. The armed California man arrested near the Maryland home of Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh Wednesday morning has been identified as Nicholas John Roski, law enforcement sources tell Fox News. Roski of Simi Valley, California, was carrying a gun, knife, and pepper spray when arrested and had made violent threats against Kavanaugh, sources said. Roski was picked up on a nearby street after calling police on 911 to report himself. A criminal complaint obtained by Fox News shows that Roski is being charged with attempting to murder a United States Supreme Court justice. He is scheduled to have a first appearance in federal court in Maryland Wednesday afternoon. Okay, so this guy called the police on himself. So I'm not sure if he got out there, right? This dude is all the way from California. So I don't know if he flew out there, he drove out there or what. But this guy was so radicalized that he traveled all the way across the country to Brett Kavanaugh's house, in which Brett Kavanaugh's house and his address was doxxed, okay, from left-wing extremists. Democrat Party endorsed it. They said, no, that's acceptable. That's just freedom of speech, right? Don't worry about it. What are you talking about? Okay, it's totally fine to, protest and try to intimidate Supreme Court justice. And apparently when he got there, maybe he had some second thoughts, right? Because for whatever reason, he ended up calling the police to report himself for wanting to basically assassinate a Supreme Court justice. So I'm not entirely sure how that works when you call the police on yourself. But let's read a little bit more here. He told officers he wanted, quote unquote, to give his life purpose and purchased the gun and other items for the purpose of breaking into Kavanaugh's home and killing the justice and then himself. Roski admitted in a second interview with the FBI of his intent to kill Kavanaugh and himself, according to an affidavit in support of the criminal complaint. Roski told detectives that, quote, he was upset about the leak of a recent Supreme Court draft decision regarding the right to an abortion, as well as the recent school shooting in Uvalde, Texas. He believed Kavanaugh would side with Second Amendment decisions that would loosen gun control laws, according to the affidavit. Okay, so this guy, in protest of gun laws, is going to take a gun and try to kill a Supreme Court justice. Yeah, like, that makes a whole lot of sense. But who knows? I mean, maybe, again, that's the intent. Maybe the intent is to show that, hey, if I can go out and buy a gun and kill a Supreme Court justice, then maybe you should just ban all guns. Again, these leftists are insane. They're absolutely insane. At approximately 1:05 a.m. Wednesday, 2 U.S. Marshals saw an individual later identified as Roski dressed in black clothing and carrying a backpack and a suitcase get out of a taxi cab that had stopped in front of Kavanaugh's Montgomery County home. The individual looked at the two marshals standing outside their parked vehicle and then turned to walk down the street, the affidavit says. Shortly after, the Montgomery County Emergency Communications Center fielded a call from Roski, who identified himself and told the call taker he, quote, was having suicidal thoughts and had a firearm in his suitcase. Roski also told the call taker he came from California to kill a specific United States Supreme Court justice, the affidavit says. Again, that's very, very, very interesting. Okay, so apparently 2 U.S. Marshals had saw this individual, and maybe he knew they were U.S. Marshals. And maybe at that point, you know, he kind of folded and was like, you know what, let me just call 911 on myself. Because, I mean, if they would have saw him, I guess, go into Brett Kavanaugh's yard or try to enter his house, he might not have been successful in his attempt, all right? Or who knows, they might have took him out. I'm not exactly sure what was on the mind of this individual or exactly what happened here, but, you know, this is the preliminary information that we have. Montgomery County Police Department officers were dispatched to the location near Kavanaugh's residence, where they encountered Roski still on the phone with the emergency operator. He was taken into custody without incident, and a backpack and suitcase in his possession were seized. A black tactical chest rig and tactical knife, Glock 17 pistol with 2 magazines and ammunition, pepper spray, zip ties, a hammer, screwdriver, nail punch, crowbar, pistol-like duct tape, hiking boots with padding on the outside of the soles, and other items were found in his suitcase and backpack. U.S. Marshals and the Montgomery County Police Department are handling the investigation. United States General Merrick Garland addressed the incident at a press conference previously planned to provide an update on the federal investigation into the Uvalde, Texas elementary school shooting. Quote, this kind of behavior is obviously behavior that we will not tolerate, Garland said. Threats of violence and actual violence against the justices, of course, strike at the heart of our democracy. We will do everything we can to prevent them and hold people who do them accountable. See, I don't want to hear anything from this guy. I don't want to hear nothing from this guy because he's the one that is running the Justice Department. You are supposed to be prosecuting these people who were illegally protesting in front of Brett Kavanaugh's house in the first place. If you were going after these extremists in this country, okay, who are actively still protesting, some of whom are protesting in churches, if you are actively going after them and making examples out of them, then maybe this wouldn't happen. Maybe it wouldn't happen. So I don't want to hear anything from Merrick Garland, the person who, in my opinion, is responsible for this. Again, this is the same guy that's quick to go after parents who speak up at school board meetings for their children. Oh no, they are domestic terrorists. But they won't go after these woke extremists who are literally trying to intimidate and dock Supreme Court justices in front of their houses illegally. They're illegally protesting in front of their houses. Just ignores it. This is what happens when you let these extremists get away with crimes, right? They become emboldened. They go further and further and further and further. Again, the Democrats, man, they really are a party of crime, right? They're a party of criminals, okay? The politicians themselves and a lot of their constituents are criminals, right? They're people who simply want chaos in this society. I'm so serious about that. So with that being said, what do the Democrats do in response to this? This is what they do. They stall a bill that's intended to protect the Supreme Court justice, right? That's what they do. Okay, a bill that's meant to provide better and more armed security for the Supreme Court justice. They're like, I'm not necessarily sure we need this, right? Not necessarily sure we need this. Again, this is absolutely ridiculous. It reminds me of what the Democrats did after the Uvalde school shooting. When the GOP proposed a school safety bill that, again, admittedly doesn't go far enough, but I think it's a start. You do something. No, we're not gonna consider it. Right? We're gonna block it. These people don't care about the loss of life. They don't. If it advances their agenda, they simply don't care who gets hurt in the process. Again, they condone the BLM/Antifa riots. People died. People died. And they said nothing. They never condemned it. Chuck Schumer coming out here and basically saying that Brett Kavanaugh is going to pay the price. To me, maybe Chuck Schumer should be, I don't know, removed as leader of the Senate for that, right? He should be removed. Maybe he should be impeached, because it sounds like to me he may have encouraged an extremist to go to Brett Kavanaugh's house and attempt to assassinate him. He one that said that he's going to pay the price. Brett Kavanaugh's going to pay the price. When Trump said, go peacefully to the Capitol, right? Hey, that's a threat. That's a threat of violence, because some of the supporters did commit acts of violence in response to that. But when Democrats and their supporters commit acts of violence in response to what Democrats say, for whatever reason, they get a pass. And I wonder, is the mainstream liberal media, are they going to have conversations about who in the left-wing liberal media encouraged this? Right? Who was this guy listening to? Who was he watching? Was he watching Joy Reid? Was he watching Don Lemon? Was he watching Rachel Maddow? Was he watching The View? Right? Who is this guy watching? Because that's what they talked about when the Buffalo shooting happened. Oh, that person was watching Tucker Carlson, even though there was no evidence whatsoever that he watched Tucker Carlson or got his ideology from Tucker Carlson. They blamed Tucker Carlson anyways. So this guy, who is obviously a left-wing extremist, who radicalized him, right? Who in the media radicalized this guy? I guarantee you won't hear the media talk about it. They will never point the fingers at themselves as the cause of the radicalization that we're seeing in this country. Again, for as much as they want to talk about it happening on the right and the white supremacists in this country, again, it's not nearly as much as what's happening on the left. Okay? A lot of political violence in this country is coming from the left. A vast majority of it is coming from the left. But they turn a blind eye to it because, well, you know, they're on the left. They're fighting for social justice, right? They're fighting for things that we agree with. Therefore, we're not going to categorize it and call it out for what it is. It's domestic terrorism. That's what it is. But like I said, guys, woke supremacy is the biggest threat to this country. I'm telling you. I'm telling you, these people have become emboldened in the Democrat Party. If they keep it up, if they don't nip this in the bud, they're going to have blood on their hands. They really will. Let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.